Hello and welcome to livealittlehigher.com. This week we begin with Parasha Tisa. This parasha is the famous parasha of the sin of the golden calf. Let's see, how could it be that holy people like Israel that had just left Mount Sinai, they were holy as angels, had just received the Torah, fell into the sin of the golden calf? Rabbi Eitin Stensveld gives us a very good explanation in human nature and how certain aspects of our lives make us turn into certain directions. This sin of the golden calf has an explanation of why the Jewish people ended doing what they did. We have to see that Moses, after the giving of the Torah, went up to heaven for 40 days and 40 nights to receive the Torah from God. What happened then was that the people thought that he was supposed to come a day before, and they did miscalculations. Because they did miscalculations, they got scared and they thought that he had died. It was so much the fear that they had that the Satan gave them an image of Moshe Rabbeinu lying down as if he was dead. Fear is not something good. Fear creates doubt. And when we're in doubt, we make crazy choices. So the Jewish people got very scared not to see Moshe Rabbeinu again. And what did they do? They created a golden calf. So Rabbi Eitin Stensveld explains it. He makes it a connection, makes an analogy of the baby blues that women get when they give birth. What happens when a woman is giving birth? Her whole body is prepared to give birth to a baby. Everything is working for giving a life to a new baby. The heart is pumping, the lungs are working more, everything in the body is like in emergency mode, and the adrenaline is up, and the body is like working like a machine. Once the baby is born, the body goes into a recessive state in which it feels a void. Because it was in such a high level, it was in such a high place, that once the baby is born, it drops. And suddenly there's nothing, it feels nothing. I imagine that people who have tried substances and they get into a high, once they're out of the high, this is what they must feel. They feel a void. So what happened was that when the Jewish people received the Torah, they were in a high, they were like giving birth. And once they received the Torah, what happened? Moses goes up, 40 days, 40 nights. What is he doing? He's filling the void with Torah. He's learning Torah. But the Jewish people were left in a camp to wait. And when they were waiting, this is what happened inside of them. There was a void created inside of them, like a baby blues, postpartum depression. And then this made them take crazy resolutions and doing crazy things that were not good for them. So this phenomenon can be explained in more spiritual terminology, and the Talmud says that the key to the mother's womb remains in God's hands alone. And according to our early sages, this is what creates the tuma of a childbirth. So when a woman gives birth, she becomes tuma, she becomes impure. Why? Because there's a void. There was nothing left inside. And this creates tuma. So the fall from a high of childbirth, where God himself is present, to the law of the emptiness that follows, it creates tuma. So the people of Israel experienced the revelation at Sinai, and for a moment they ascend to a level so high, they were in such a high level, that they hear God speaking, they see miracles, they see the whole props in Mount Sinai. There was no echo, they could hear with their eyes, they could see with their ears. And without any preparations, an entire nation ascends to this level. Imagine the level they were in. And immediately afterwards, everything disappears, there's nothing. I can compare this to the wedding of a child. You prepare for months, you're getting ready, you're preparing a wedding, you're excited, the dress, the flowers, the music, the food, the drinks, everything. You're working. Then the day comes, you're in the highest of the peak of the bliss, and then the next day, you're like a train went over you. You can't even move. That's how tired you are. and you're empty. Because it's not like giving birth that you come home with a baby. You come home without your baby anymore. So here, what it's teaching us, Rabbi Aydin Steinsveld, is that when people are in a high, when people are going in a treadmill, they're super working, they're doing great, they have a meeting, they have this new deal to sign, and the day after is very dangerous. You have to be very careful what you fill it with, because that's the problem. When people accomplish, and they accomplish something that they've been working very hard to accomplish, and suddenly it's done, then there's a void. And when there's a void, this is the most dangerous moment in our lives, because with what you feel it is what is going to take you even higher or even lower, and it can take you very low. So high uplifting points in one's life can thus be very dangerous times, because they present the latent danger of a serious fall. So the highest you are, the lower you can fall, to the point of making a calf a worse. The proper way to deal with this danger is not to tarry, but to immediately begin a process that will enable one to maintain the spiritual high. So when I teach people personally, and I see they're very excited to become more religious, they want to take more mitzvahs in their lives, and they want to go very fast, I always tell them, go slow, go slow. It's not, there's no rush. Go slow. Start one mitzvah at a time. Take one. Think about it. Get used to it. Live it. Perfect it. Once you're done with that one, you can take another one. But if you take the whole thing, 613 mitzvot, and you start doing them all at once, then it is very dangerous. You can fall into this trap. So during the Havdalah, for example, service, at the end of Shabbat, we not only drink wine as we do in Kiddush, because what we're doing is that at the beginning of Shabbat, we drink wine. At the end, when the Shabbat is gone, at the beginning of the week, we drink wine. And then there's the spices that we smell. And we do this because, whoa, the soul is lost. Because after Shabbat, we're in such a high that to go back to the week, it's very hard for the neshama. As you know, there's a special soul that's in you for the whole Shabbat. And once Shabbat is over, this extra soul that is put in you goes away. And it's very hard to depart. It's very hard to leave Shabbat for a person. So in the way that it should not cause a descent, we smell spices, we smell spices, and this is to guard ourselves against the danger of a precipitous fall to which we are vulnerable following the spiritual high of Shabbat. So the smell of the spices reawakens us and puts us back into the weekday. So the spiritual high of Yom Kippur, for example, also is followed by a fall, not because we become worse than we were beforehand, but because of the sense of disparity between the holy day. It's such an awesome day where it's such a high that the next day, so now what? Like I had such an experience, holy soul experience, and the next day, where's my soul? So that's why right after Yom Kippur, we go and we build the sukkah. It's a mitzvah that right after Yom Kippur, everybody should go and put at least a leaf on the sukkah, something to continue in the mitzvot. And the same goes with Simchas Torah, which after the reading of the entire Torah, we finish reading the Torah. The first thing we do after we finish is we begin reading it again. So all these concepts, what tell us is that when a person experiences major changes in their life and does not have the capacity to absorb these changes, the effect of these changes can be ruinous. Like when you're going through a change in your life, don't allow for you to have a void in there. Don't let a void come inside of you, because when we're empty, that's when we get into trouble. A year and a half ago, I moved to New York, and I was teaching 7 Torah classes a week. And when I came here, I could not find myself. I was going crazy, and that's when the idea of livealittlehigher.com came up in my head. Because it cannot be that after doing this, I'm not doing anything. I just have to keep on doing something more. And Hashem, thank God, He takes you in the way you want to go. And I prayed so much that He gave me the wisdom. He gave me the gift of being able to give classes online. So for this reason, it is precisely in times of ascent that one must always be very careful to engage in activities that foster spiritual growth. So if good, Baruch Hashem, you're doing good in your life, thank God. But don't negate your spiritual part. Don't forget about it. Always do something more. Start putting on tefillin, start lighting your Shabbat candles, start going to the synagogue on Shabbat, start going to Torah classes, start reading more, learning more, start mentoring somebody. But don't allow for you to be able to have a void inside of yourselves. So the period between the giving of the Torah and Moses' return lasted only 40 days. And we can understand from where this sin of the golden calf came. So as I said before, Moshe was not affected by it because he was not he didn't have a void, he was full, while the Jewish people had a void. So in times of transition and times of real trial, it's a time of a test. Hashem is testing you. He's giving you the opportunity to fill yourself with something more. And to finish off, the golden calf was in category of the sins like years because it has an explanation, and that's why Hashem gave us the opportunity to rectify it with the building of the Mishkan and the articles that went in it, and gave us the opportunity to be serving Hashem 24 hours a day. And this is the only way, really, the only way in which we don't fall. So I wish you a good week, a happy week, a fulfilling week,